Okay, well, welcome everyone to the MCC meeting for October. I know many of you are standing in line for the wonderful lunch we have today from Indian Darbar. So super appreciative of that. And if you're wondering how we can afford such wonderful food, it is due to the generosity of New North and the grant we received over the summer. So super appreciative of that. Welcome again, everyone. I know we have a packed agenda. Gina always gives me feedback on this that I'm trying to fit in too much, but there's so much to share with everyone, and we love having everyone in the same room at the same time. Housekeeping, if you are familiar with the Bordini Center, I gotta remember where I can and cannot stand. The restrooms are out to the left. Men's is on the left, and then women's is on the right. I think that's it for housekeeping. And then also want to just take a moment to express our gratitude for Fox Valley Technical College. They have been graciously hosting us for quite some time in our meeting. So really, really appreciate that and love their facilities because it allows us this space to do it both in person and online. And then again, just wanted to express gratitude to New North. So just a couple of things in terms of updates. We have been busy. So one of the things that we are working on under overall the health equity bucket is we have a reminder about the free COVID-19 test kits. If you guys are not aware, you can go back online and order more of the COVID test kits. So I know personally in our home, all of a sudden we realized, oh my gosh, everything we had was expired by months and went ahead and ordered them online. That's always really easy. And then that the state of Wisconsin, if somebody thinks that they have COVID, you can do the free virtual telehealth call, which is super helpful. And then I think in most cases, or in some cases, you can get if they deem you have COVID, et cetera, they can send you meds right through the mail. So that is super helpful too in terms of eliminating barriers to the care that you need. We also have COVID information on the back table. So just in case it is in multiple languages as well. So love to have that. And it's really important in terms of information. Let's see, what else do we have for updates? I'm gonna back up. Do we need to go back or is it, okay, here we go. Recently, if you're not familiar with this, another body of work we are working on at MCI is urgent needs. And when we talk about urgent needs, it's food, hygiene products, etc. Interesting. So, and then we are hoping to get to this space where we can eliminate some of the craziness when it comes to community members' needs. So at any given time, we get calls, our culturally based partner organization gets calls saying there's a family in need. They need, for example, food, kind of a big deal. They need hygiene products. So we're looking at how can we as a community do better in systematically addressing that. So that might mean having culturally based food products, produce available in distribution points throughout our communities to eliminate some of the barriers of transportation and access that families have. And then personal hygiene products is another one. So recently we had the opportunity with volunteer Fox Cities came to us and said, hey, what do you guys need? And we said, we need some culturally based personal hygiene kits. And so we worked closely with them to source some hair product that is culturally based for Black women, Black girls. And then they bagged up everything for us through the volunteer center with Thrivent executives. So super appreciative of their efforts in that regard. They no sooner gave us the bags than we have been distributing the bags. There's a couple bags in our cars at any time. So we just have them with us and we're also giving them out to our culturally based partners as well. So thank you Volunteer Fox Cities and Thrivent for that. So let's see. I got to catch my breath here because there's been a lot going on. Well, it is October. October 4th, we were at Gunderson Family Companies in Menasha on site there for a health and information resource fair, which is super, super impactful. And then we have another event coming up in Chilton at the Chilton Library, Dia de los Muertos. And that is going to be health and information again, a lot of resources on site. And we're looking at the possibility of having vaccinations as well, if we can, with their public health department. And then last but not least, and thank you, Rana, for being the first official donation, we are seeking winter gear. And this drive is on behalf of all of us. You can see Pointers, Casa Hispana Partnership, People of Progression, New Hmong professionals, and ourselves. We are in desperate need of winter gear. So, you know, it's funny because it's October, the temperature has fallen. And especially for many of our refugee families who are not used to this climate, I can speak firsthand. We went to an apartment the other day. It was probably 90 degrees in that apartment. It was so warm, but this is a hard adjustment. So the sooner we can bring in donations, we're looking for monetary donations, and we would prefer new gear. And when I say winter gear, I mean boots, gloves, hats, jackets. We just don't have the facilities to launder things and that sort of thing. So we also have that QR code at each of your spots on the table today as well. So we really, really appreciate that. Thank you, Rana, again for, now I just have to remember, she gave me the jacket, it's in the back of the room. So thank you again for that. So we're excited for the winter gear drive. Just wanna make sure. When we talk about, I'm gonna go back to the urgent needs and housing work that we're doing. You might have seen this diagram in the past. If you haven't, and this is your first time, this, I talk about this all the time. This infinity symbol, at any given time, we are on MCI, our culturally based partners, we are on this continuum, looking, striving for equity. But we might be meeting basic needs on the left-hand side, and then we're looking at that systems change. We can keep doing what we've always been doing and getting the same results, or we can keep pushing things to the systems change. And that's that space where we can create change for the future, a better future. And I'll give you one example of this right now is, I don't know if Amanda with Kids Forward is in the room. We've been talking a lot about the barriers that we have in place when it comes to language. So we're looking at, are there some policies we can change? Because I'm thinking, and I know our culturally based partners are constantly in this, this information is great, but do you have it in multiple languages? So we keep putting the requests out there, but are there some policies that need to be changed so we don't keep butting up against the same closed door? Holy cow. I mean, that would be huge. And if you remember when we first began meeting as a committee, maybe some of you are new, when we first began meeting as a committee, that was one of the barriers we hit right off the bat over and over again. We got information, we translated information, we looked at it culturally, and then pushed it out to our audiences. So this just gives you an idea of, yes, meeting needs over here, but how do we create the solutions for the future? Based on what our community members are telling us. This is not us saying, here's what we need to do, here's what we think you should do. So the solutions are already there. How can we support one another in getting to the systems change? So with that, I am going to turn it over to Christina to talk about the Hazard Mitigation Plan. And I believe this is only for Outagamie County, but this will be important information for us all to have. So if you're ready, Christina, and just remember, which I did not, you're supposed to stay here to about 3 feet over there.
I zoomed out.
Well, thank you. Overcoming barriers.
Hello, thank you for your time, and I hope you're enjoying this meal.
I think it's just the mic. I think it has to be a little closer.
Maybe the mic is a little shy of you. Is this a little better?
Yeah.
It's a lot. Nice. I'm Christina Muller, and I am working with Outagamie County Emergency Management, and they are updating their hazard mitigation plan. And every county in this region here does have a hazard mitigation plan, and that's specifically looking at what are the hazards, or disasters the community has? What are the impacts? And we can go to the next slide then, Gina.
Thank you, and then I will get rid of that bar up at the top, sorry.
Oh, it's okay. But the main thing is looking at what are the hazards a community has? What are the disasters that impacts them? And then when that disaster happens, what vulnerabilities, what problems does that create? And also this plan, the focus this year was trying to get how does the public see disasters? Because the problem is that people within the roles of public safety of government have day-to-day experience with that, but they don't understand always how does the public see, what are the problems that the public sees with disasters in the community. And then the last step of the plan was, well, let's not just, what Lisa was just talking about, if there's a problem going on, don't keep with that same problem. The goal to be is how can you change the system so that you can reduce those problems in the future? Same thing here with the hazard mitigation plan. What are steps that can be taken so that we no longer have the impact from that tornado or from that flood or from those other items? And this year, this plan goes over 5 years. So every 5 years, this plan is updated because it's a beast. It's a big 350 pages. But one of the things, can you hear okay? Any closer? Is that better? Okay, thank you very much. I love when people are willing to tell me that. So the goal with this plan was trying to get more input from the public on what these, how they perceive the disasters. We can go to the next slide. Thanks, Gina. So these are the ranking of the natural disasters and hazards at Outagamie County, which reality-wise, this impacts the other counties as well. The order may be different, but these are the ones, the main impacts. Now, not surprising, tornado is high and severe thunderstorm and strong winds. Now, when we reach out to the public, we did a survey in English, in Hmong, and Spanish. And one of the takeaways we had was that though we did a lot of outreach with the Hmong and with the Spanish translations, we didn't do a good enough job because we didn't really get much feedback. And so now we're looking next time, how can we really get the information from those communities so we know how they perceive disasters? Because the public did rank these a little bit differently. Actually, winter storms, which you will see, came up higher.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought that was my cue.
Nope, that's okay.
Sorry.
So blizzards were number 4, but they were higher from the public's standards perspectives. So understanding what are our worst hazards means that's where we put the more focus on for mitigation strategies. Now, I guess for you guys, have any of you, raise your hand if you've been through strong winds or a tornado before? Okay, a couple people. Okay, how many of you have been through a hailstorm that caused significant damage? Okay, gotcha. For those of you, any one of you is a tornado not, you didn't grow up with a tornado. Wherever you grew up, that wasn't a normal thing. Raise your hand if that was the case. Okay, some of you, okay. I had friends who said they would take an earthquake over a tornado any day. And I said, what? No. To me, like, I'm used to that. I'm used to tornado, but for them, an earthquake, that was normal and they knew how to handle it. And this is an important distinction here because language and experience can change in how you understand these hazards. So go to the next slide, Gina. Thank you. Now this small table here is showing the hazards and then looking at the total damage. That oftentimes is the big thing. What is the damage and what is the impact to life? Now, unfortunately, these numbers here are only the ones that were reported mainly by either a local citizen called into the government and said, I had damage, and they surveyed it, or it was that the National Weather Service received this damage. This does not include all the uninsured and insured damage, because that hail damage is much, much higher after what was happening the last couple of years. But you can see there's a lot of damage that we've had in the past from the tornadoes and hail and strong winds in winter. Interesting thing, vegetation fires, there's been a lot of vegetation fires, and by blessing, most of it has been impacting not homes, but just the areas, the grass areas. But as people develop more into these areas of where there's vegetation, that could change. But anyway, just a big overview about how much damage has been. Great question. This is going from 2005 to 2022. over for Outagamie County alone, yes. Very good. Okay, go ahead, Gina. Okay, so now one of the main impact that this year that FEMA, so this is all through FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. This is where the planning standards come from. And they really wanted us to look at what are some of the people are an asset. And if people are an asset, we have to look at what are the things that can impact people with these disasters. Specifically, one of the main ones that the team was concerned about was limited English. If English was not your first language, or if not fluent, or maybe not even spoken at all, when you get a weather warning, I've been in a situation where I was in a different country, I got a weather warning, and I did not understand what that meant. That is a very frightful situation. So that is looking at our weather messages, are they being translated in a way that people understand? And that's really where we want feedback from the community on. And eventually the National Weather Service has been talking about, they want impact on, are our warning messages getting out in a way that people understand what is the risk and what should I do? Any questions about that first one?
Opportunity, for not just us, but I think everyone across the country to make improvement. Like we were outside at an outdoor event, and then I noticed we were at a mobile home park. There were moms, coming out of their homes like this, and I felt very proud of our work. So we were able to bring that information. We pulled it from national source. They were here about the I think it was. It was translated, and people were interested in what needed to be done, but there was just this again. Again, I'm not saying no to anyone. It's just across the board, because I think it took everyone by surprise. Impact Wisconsin was from the fires. So we were able to hand out the information, hand out the N95 again, and kind of roll through that. So that was good.
I'm just gonna butt in real quick, for those of you at home, who said you can't hear, just to note that I'm retyping the conversation or question in the chat for you. That's it, thanks.
Very good point, Lisa. And I think that is the reality of disasters, that we understand as we move along, that how does this impact people? How does, are these warning messages, if there is a message saying that there is strong winds, we should not be outside because of the damage, do people understand what that means? And not always, they don't. And how can then National Weather Service and Emergency Management and partners do a better job at that? Another, if we're looking at our assets, is people who are experiencing homelessness or poverty. And this is when some of the outdoor, especially when you look at some of those storms, I would not want to be outside during some of those storms, personally. And knowing what I know about protection and gear, what you need to do to be safe. So therefore, these people are at risk then, and especially homes, if your home is not very, if the roof is not attached, if it's gravity held versus it's not latched on, all these different things, property damage. And the goal is that this plan is looking at, if you experience a disaster or damage, and if you're not able to recover from it, or you don't know how to recover from it, it causes this cycle that happens. And these people are not able to they don't know where to get help from. And this is our concern. And we can go to the next slide. And another, just again, I'm pulling out of all these pages, I'm just pulling out a little bit, just I wanted to share with you so that you know what we're looking for feedback on. And looking for individuals with disabilities. And this is very broad range. Cognitive, it could be a physical, it could be many different items, but there is, can the person do protective actions before something occurs? Are they able to do that? And if something does happen to their property, are they able to clean up, recover? Snowstorms is an example. If there's all of a sudden, you get 15 inches of snow, can you get out of the driveway to go to your doctor's appointment? Do you have someone to help you clear out that out? There's all these different types of impacts that can happen, especially when you look at the windstorms and tornadoes. And can they pick up, especially Hortonville, they had in 2013, all these trees went down. Does a person have ability to take a chainsaw
and get rid of those trees and get out of their driveway? Oftentimes, no. So again, looking at these long-term impacts, what does it do to your thought process if you keep seeing that damage over and over again in your yard, in your house? We can go to the next slide then. Okay, so again, I want to be very respectful of your time. So there's this link here, which Gina, if you don't mind later on to send out to the whole group, is looking at emergency management, and the team's looking for feedback. Mainly, we know that we can do a better job in getting input on how
They still have like the burgers and stuff in there.
Really?
And the salad bar is about this long.
Oh my goodness. Didn't expect that.
If you're listening at home, could you please mute yourselves? I can't find which person it is. Oh. You're good.
you have to be flexible, right? And that's okay. But we know that we want to be doing a better job. And so one of the concerns we have is that, are we identifying what are the concerns in the Hmong and the Spanish and in the Black population? What are all the different concerns that are out there? And we did meet with the Hmong American president, and it has been great conversations on how we should do things differently in the future when it comes to damage assessment and going door to door. But if we don't know, there can't be change. So definitely looking for feedback on this. Any questions at all?
It's over the month of October into early November. Yeah. And it can be emailed, we can email like a page number and say, hey, under winter storms, you know, you didn't think about, for example, my sister-in-law is from the Dominican Republic. And I remember when she first came here and drove in snowstorms and what her learning curve and everything, like there's things we might not be thinking of. We're used to that. A Wisconsinite is used to winter storms. But someone who does not, up here for the first time, they may not know I should wear my ballet shoes when I go outside when it's February.
I was just gonna ask too, have you met with Long Vu from New Monk Professionals? Long, will you raise your hand? Because I think that might be another opportunity as well.
No, I have not had the opportunity yet, but that's great. I'll make the connection then. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Rana.
It's come to my attention in working with people from the Congo and Uganda that they have no idea about thermostats. And 90 degrees is not unusual. They don't understand that it's going to cost them a heck of a lot of money. And they don't understand about the layered look, which we had to do overnight here. And something like snow shovels, I've been gathering snow shovels and distributing them. And they kind of look at me like, oh, when do I need this? Well, maybe you'll need.
Yeah, very good points. And Christina, I was thinking too, I have extensive notes from the past 3.5 years that I'm happy to share with you based on all of our work from the beginning of the pandemic. And you hit upon a lot of the things too, so I'm happy to share and go through that as well.
That would be great, because that is something we want to improve and work upon, and knowing that it's a process. It's not just you check it off and you're done. We learn every single time there's a disaster event.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very important work. So we'll send that link out as well. Thank you. Okay, Fox Valley literacy folks, you are up next. Remember your box to stay in up here and hold the mic close.
Good afternoon, everyone. Is this okay, or do I need to move it closer still? A little bit closer? All right, this is really strange, I gotta say. Anyway, I'm Leone Tracy. I'm the Executive Director at Fox Valley Literacy. With me is Heather Chantelois-Kashal. She's our Program Manager at Fox Valley Literacy. So slight change in who was in the email, but we'll all adapt, I know. This presentation we're gonna do is actually the first time we've done it, so I apologize. There will probably be some draft pieces that stick out. But thanks for helping us field test it. So what does Fox Valley Literacy do anyway? I was very punchy when I sent Gina the title. But I
We
also,
love it.
but I also think it deals with one of the biggest things. Can you go to the next or start and continue? So just the brief, who are we? Because I will not assume everybody knows, but Fox Valley Literacy is a 501c3. We're based in downtown Appleton, and we serve Outagamie, Northern Winnebago, Wapaka, and Northern Calumet counties. So way too many counties, really, for 5 full-time staff and 1 part-time staff. But we do it through a team of volunteers. Last year, we had 185 volunteer tutors. That doesn't count people who volunteer for the board or other things, just tutoring. Majority of our service is one-on-one, but we also do small group classes, some online learning, and we're developing a couple of other services that we're going to talk about a little bit later. Our mission is to share the power of learning to transform lives and enrich the community. Vision is our community is a place where everyone can participate, but still, yeah, it's heavy. One thing I always like to point out is that neither of those mention the word literacy or reading for a couple of reasons. One, literacy is not just reading, and our success isn't determined by reading scores. If people's scores go up on a test, that doesn't help us if they're not getting what they need out of us and out of the community. If they can't get to where they need to be, doesn't matter how much we help them improve. We work with everybody and we find out what their individualized needs are first, and then set them up with materials, tutors, classes that are geared toward what their priority is. That could be, I want to be able to help my kid with their homework. It could be, I need to be able to get a job, advance in a job, go back to school, return to my field of work because I've been a professional for decades, all across the board. Sorry, brain fart. But yeah, so we want people to be able to choose how they get to be a part of this community. It's not, okay, we need to get you up to speed so you can work, done. We've had people who started with that, then they wanted to get more schooling, then they wanted an associate's degree, then they wanted to start their own business. Like, we see people through so many cool transitions and opportunities, and we're privileged to help them get to where they're going. And why should we all be thinking about literacy? Because we all are at all times anyway, whether we think about it or not. Literacy isn't just reading. You know, many people I've interacted with, and a lot of people who even came to volunteer or join the board, thought of it as, I'm going to go help people read. And very few people have actually ever come in to do the work to read a book. They need, how do I survive? How do I get to where I'm going? How do I get to the next spot in my life? It's not about just the English written word. It's also sometimes digital literacy. Could be fully fluent, but if they have never used a computer, they're going to have a hard time entering the workforce or re-entering the workforce. It could be health literacy. How do you navigate these complex systems that are not always the friendliest to us? There's a lot of different places that literacy can kind of be singled out. And we work with people on as many of those as we can at different scales. And the impacts of a low literacy in any of these can be tied to economic factors, health factors, just about sense of belonging, which is something that we've all heard a lot more about in the last couple of years, especially coming out of the post-pandemic, is if people are not able to connect to the community, they're not going to input to the community, they're not going to be a part of the community, and they're not going to stay in the community. And that's not good for us or anybody else up here. So, and what kind of issues are these? Heather, what do we talk about? No.
Always awkward. Okay. I think you can hear me, yes?
Oh, that seems like a better mic.
I think you also have to point it
It's this
at your face. Okay, well, bonjour, Jumbo to the monde. My name is Heather Chantelois-Kashal. I'm the program manager. I speak French and Swahili. This is Paola Sarli. She speaks Spanish. Rita is not able to be here today. She speaks Hmong. And Vered is also with us almost full time, and he speaks Mandarin. So one of the things that we really love at Fox Valley Literacy is we try to greet everyone in the language that comes from your heart and your home language as much as you choose to. So if you do know folks, please tell them that if they want to stop by or call us to do so in their language. And if it's not one of those, we work with interpreters or students who speak that language to try to greet people and help them feel welcome in your language. Okay, but moving on. So I'm going to talk about why literacy really is important to all of the different community groups that are out there. And one of the things that I really respect about the Multicultural Coalition is the focus on equity and justice and systems change. So we're going to look at some case studies. These are not one single student. We try to kind of combine students and then anonymize to protect people's confidentiality. But these are very representative of some of the things that our students face that maybe people you're working with or people in your family might face and might not tell you because there's a lot of stigma attached to having literacy struggles. So I'd like you to meet Ramsey. Ramsey has been having difficulties at work lately. His employer provided a translator, but the translator speaks a different dialect than he does, and so he doesn't always understand what he's saying. Ramsey's also kind of embarrassed that he doesn't fully understand and isn't sure how to advocate for himself at work. He made a mistake recently and was asked to sign some forms. He didn't want to say that he couldn't read them well enough, and so he signed them, and it turns out that he took responsibility for an accident that he doesn't think he caused. He lost his job because of that. So that's an example of the way that low literacy and systems that think they're maybe set up to address that or to respond have some poor understanding or aren't really developed in a way that actually helps people participate fully and keeps them stable and safe. So as I go through these examples, I'd like to invite you to think about your work and where you fit in creating the solutions for these folks. Okay, let's go to the next one. We have another example. So Shira and her fiance lived in refugee camps for nearly 10 years before coming to the US. So they were very excited to buy a house. They found a house that they loved and they were going to make an offer. They had a friend who had recently bought his own house translate for them, and he noticed that they were given a 20% interest rate. He connected them to a different mortgage lender who gave them a 7% interest rate. So when you hear about redlining, this is happening currently, it's happening in our communities, and often people who have low literacy are especially targeted for it because the lenders think that people won't know any different or know how to advocate. So just some statistics that in low-income countries where many of our students come from, having universal public education reduces the dropout by nearly 41%. So here we have primary school, so elementary school, middle, and high school are paid for by taxes, so they're accessible to everyone. That's not the case in all countries. So making school paid for by taxes or free for families really decreases the likelihood that somebody will drop out. In the US, schools with at least 75% of students living in poverty only offer a third the AP courses of wealthier schools. So when you're thinking about equity in education, this is happening, in Wisconsin, in our communities, where you can go to a school in a different zip code and have a very different quality of education. And then children of parents with low literacy have a 72% chance of being at the lowest reading levels themselves. That's a lot less about those individual parents' behaviors as it is about how that family is situated within an entire ecosystem that enables or disables their advancement in school. And then 1 in 5 workers in the United States are immigrants, refugees, or speakers of other languages. So we have a huge population of workers who maybe have very advanced literacy skills in other languages, but might struggle because English might not be their first language, or they might have learned it as an adult and kind of have a piecemeal English. That obviously prevents career advancement, right? A lot of our students are stuck in entry-level positions, even though they have significant skills. So literacy is also a racial justice issue. So I'd like you to meet one of our students, Kub, who tells us that most people don't know us, but the Hmong language has had our own written language at one point, and during the Qing Dynasty, the Hmong people resisted government oppression, and one of the tactics was to burn the Hmong language, to systematically erase the written language. And now Hmong is mostly a spoken language. So this student says, people think of Hmong as an oral language, but that's because of historical oppression. And now she's trying to kind of reclaim her language by learning a different version, but learning to read and write in Hmong, and also improve her English to create strong connections with her family and help her children succeed in school. Here's another example of the intergenerational effects of racial injustice and literacy. So Anne grew up in the South, and when she was 15, her schools began to integrate. White mobs started policing the schools and threatening students and teachers. It was very hard to learn, and then one day they beat a lot of students and teachers, and she and her family decided she wouldn't continue at school anymore. She would leave school and work in her family's store. Now she came to us in her 60s saying, my grandkids are in school, maybe it's my turn. I really want to improve my reading so I can read the Bible by myself. Literacy is strongly connected to racial justice issues. So in 2015 to 16, due to out-of-school suspensions, Black students lost more than 82 days in school than their white peers. Predominantly white school districts received nearly $23 billion more in funding, despite serving a similar number of students than predominantly districts with kids of color. And English language learner students are more likely to be misdiagnosed with having special education needs. So imagine speaking 2 or 3 languages, being given a standardized test in German or Russian, and then being told that you have special education needs because you don't perform at the same standardized test level as your native German or Russian speaker colleagues.
All right, here it goes. The video is here, just looks blank, so I'm sorry for the preview, but.
Okay, all right. And then I'd like you to introduce you to Norma, who's gonna share her story. And as you've noticed, literacy is intersectional, right? When we're talking about economics, we're also talking about race, we're also talking about gender. So we're gonna finish with a story about a woman and how gender affected her life, but it's all of those things all the time for many people.
When I was growing up, I went to a school in Mexico that just had chalkboards. There weren't any other supplies. There weren't any computers. It was very different from my school where my children go now. Some of the teachers were nice and patient, but other teachers were mean and impatient. My teachers in 1st grade and 2nd grade were not friendly. They hit us when they thought we should learn faster. It is hard to learn when you are scared. My teachers from 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade were kinder.
Oh, sorry. I don't know what I did. Oh, gosh. I'm so sorry, everybody. It's coming. Let's take it a sec to load again. Come on up. Here we go. I'm so sorry, everybody.
When I was growing up, I went to a school in Mexico that just had chalkboards. There weren't any other supplies. There weren't any computers. It was very difficult. I like reading, but our school did not have a library. The only books we had to read were our school books. Now I love to read. I especially love to read about history. Many of us left school after sixth grade because our families could not afford tuition. Even though I had to stop going to school, I dreamed of continuing school until I was 15 or 18 years old. I will never get my childhood back, but I know I can keep learning as an adult. Many things have helped me continue learning. One was getting a car so I could go places where I could learn. Tutoring and classes at Fox Valley Technical College were important to me, and I've decided that I could be successful. Now I can communicate with English speakers more confidently. I can stick up for myself and others when dealing with rude people. I can understand my mother's nurses and doctors when they speak English. I know I will never stop learning. Thank you, Doug. I'm honored that you will write a song about my story. I hope that my story will inspire other people to keep going when life is hard and to not be afraid.
Yeah, so Norma is one of our very brave students who was with us for, I think, 6 years by the time that she felt comfortable to tell her story. So many people who we work with in the community have stories just like that. And it really takes those long-term relationships and accompaniment along their paths before we might get to know them as full people in that way. And that's one of the things that I think is so special about literacy is our model works on one-on-one. And so the student and the teacher really get to know each other, and they often become like family. And the teacher gets to learn a lot about themselves and the student as well. And you get to really help people make the changes that they want to see in their lives rather than us deciding what those changes should be for them. So to finish up, 2 out of every 3 girls who are out of school worldwide, or 2 out of every 3 children who are out of school worldwide are girls. Of the 775 million adults globally who can't read, over 66% of them are women. 2/3 of our students are women as well. We mainly work with adults. And over half of all sex trafficked women and children have little to no literacy skills. So that's just one example of how literacy creates precarity that then often leads people to be abused and taken advantage of. So what are we doing toward our mission? I told you a lot of stories of people struggling, but we have some great stories of how we've been able to help people see changes in their lives. So one example is a student named Mayara, who was a lawyer in Brazil. She came here and wasn't really sure what her life would look like. And she is currently doing a lot of studying with a tutor and on her own, and is able to pass college entrance exams in English, which is quite a feat. It takes 7 years studying 100 hours per year before an average adult will be able to be proficient in English. So the whole idea that, oh, go there for a few months and you'll be speaking it, that's not how it actually works. Mayara is in the process. I don't know if I can talk about this.
Sure.
Yeah, I think she's in the process of joining our board of directors. And we're really excited about that. So she's bringing her experience as a lawyer to our board of directors, as a student, as a community member. Another example is Jose, who was the director of finance for multiple companies in Latin America, who is working in manufacturing, like many of our students who come here. That's where they start. And he is studying very hard on career-specific programs aligned to his career goals so that he can transition to a better job. We've helped lots of students do that, where they set specific goals and we really help them fast track that process by resources and accompaniment. And then those are just 2 examples focusing on economics, but we have lots of students who their goal might not be work related. Maybe it's to advocate for their children at school or to better understand their chronic illness and advocate for themselves. And our tutors and staff feel so grateful to get to be a part of that.
They always give me these slides without bullet points because they know I just ramble anyway, so it makes sense. So what do we hope to do towards our mission? Kind of where are we trying to go? Where do we hope this work evolves and looks different in a couple of years? And part of that is what Heather talked about. Our one-on-one program is so critically important, and it really does a lot for bringing people into the community and creating those connections that makes people who may not feel as welcome have a little more comfort and sense of belonging. But the trick part of that is scale. We have, last year I said we served almost 400 students. We have about 40 people on our wait list right now. And like only 2 weeks ago, we had gotten it down to like 24. And that's with more appointments coming in. So we do have to be able to also figure out, like, how do we serve more than one-to-one? We know it's the best option, but there's also other good options that we can supplement, either for people to do both, or that might be where people get started. So we've done more with actual small groups where it's 1 tutor to 3 to 5 students who have similar base language, similar starting point as far as what their English level is, and similar goals. So they're still all focused on where they need to be. We have finished up our first family literacy pilot that we are getting ready to start the next one in January, and that was working exclusively with the Hmong community, based out of conversations that we were having with members of the community and the leaders who were saying that it's not even so much the English language literacy, but that language preservation, the parent-child connection. How do we help them achieve what they want to see in their community in ways that still ties to literacy, ties to community belonging and sense of impact? And we're really excited about where that is going, because that's the sort of thing that we can replicate. This is something we might be able to scale to bring to different school districts, because a lot of this really comes down to is, where do people need us? At work, at schools, in the community, and how can we go to meet them there instead of asking for them to come to more places? We've done some workforce classes, and we hope to build that out as well, because everybody needs to work and every employer is really, really needing to hire still these days, which is good for our students. And if we can help them get on board, stay on board, and help the employers see that this is worth investment in, that's also helping them get a foothold in the community so they can consider, how do I get back to what I want to do, or get to what I want to do if that's changed? Not just, gee, I can pay most of my bills, great. Like, how do they actually get to have the same sort of dreams that we do? Like when we go, I think I might try and do this in a couple of years. That's sometimes hard for some people to see.
Right.
Okay.
Tip it.
Okay.
You're not coming through.
Okay. I lost my place.
Sorry.
Yes, and as we talked, digital literacy as well, that's tied to a lot of the workforce, but also individuals and how they can access their healthcare, access their finances, and learn how to manage it on their own. Because people are exiting the workforce in the last few years. If they don't have any digital skills, they can't get almost any employment, even when it comes to manufacturing, fast food, etc. That doesn't work anymore. It was a couple of years ago. That's where people would be able to fall, and that's getting less and less the case. I think that was my last point. Sorry. So sorry for the very terrible ending. I just kind of got my head thrown off, but we're trying to figure out in a couple of years, my goal is I want to know where in the community people can expect to find Fox Valley literacy. not just we happen to be there, but where will we always have classes at Pillars, Harbor House, other places that are serving some of our clients, and how can we go there to give them a better experience, find more people, and reach more people. We have 400 volunteers last year. I can't manage 400 more, or we can't even recruit them if we wanted to. So how do we grow? So that's what we're trying. And hopefully we'll see a lot of you along the way. So questions? If we have a minute or two, it looks like.
Are you currently working with any of the Leone school districts?
What's that?
Sorry.
Yes.
Where the family literacy program takes place at Highlands Elementary. So there's sort of a partnership there, not to the level that we would like. We've also talked with Banta Elementary about offering classes for their parents, both in English and in Spanish. I think they're okay with me sharing that. But yeah, not as much as there's possibility there for sure.
And that pilot just started. We just finished that this past July. So that was our first foray into actually doing work in the districts. We've definitely had questions. We've done presentations for other districts for like some of their resource days, but combination of school system bureaucracy and our lack of capacity sometimes.
So do you work with like Foxville and Chantelois with like their EL classes and things like that, or not really?
Yeah, we have a good relationship with the tech and always have. We're lucky in that way. We haven't done anything directly since the pandemic. Prior, we actually were sometimes helped volunteer staff some of their classes so that we'd actually have some of our tutors in their ELL classes so that the students who needed a little more attention still had other people in the room. It's something we're still trying to figure out how to work with them again in a new way. Not because the old way broke, but just because things changed. But no, we have a really good relationship. We always have at least one person from the tech on our board of directors. They're a really great partner, and we help people get to the tech. We know that the tech is where they're going to get the skilled job work that they need for a better career. But a lot of people need help to succeed while at the tech or to even be able to start.
I'm sorry, your program, is it more of like a stepping stone so like people can come here and take courses to further their education?
For some people, yes, it kind of depends on what it is that their goals are. A lot of people do that, and some people will stay with a tutor the entire time they're at the tech. So it's still kind of like, it's an additional support system. Some people have no interest in going to the tech. That's not where their goals lie. It might only be about community access and how I want to be able to become a citizen, help people study for that. 18 people became citizens last year because of our tutors. We have one tutor who's at like 60, 70. He's helped 70 people become students from over 30 different countries, I think, maybe close to 40. Yeah, so we help people, but yes, we work with the tech. Some people definitely use it as a stepping stone, and that's great.
Yeah, we don't offer any credentials ourselves. So we're not like a higher education institution.
I'm just gonna, is this working? I think it is. So I heard from you, Brian, that scaling is a challenge. What do you need to scale?
Wait.
Is that the $1 million question?
What'd you say?
Literally?
Yes. Well, space in our building and in our brains. Because developing, I know there's interest out there, and we have some warm-ish interest in some of those programming, but we have to have a place to put the program. We have to have a place to fund the program, and that's some of the work that we're doing in small scale. We're actually hoping to knock out a wall in our office in the next couple of months so that we can actually have our classrooms. By the way, we have classrooms for people to study on site, but they're like, from here to there. And that we're already putting like 5 people in that room sometimes. Our biggest classroom is better than that, but you couldn't run a real class in the way any of us would picture from growing up and going to school in the US. So we're hoping to be able to do that because then we can actually offer more things that operate at scale.
So I'm just offering up MCI. You know, we have the new space, we have a huge classroom. I know of some other organizations that have large meeting space as well. So if you're looking for additional space, we could start with 1 to 2. Would love to have it.
That would be awesome. Yeah, we were discussing that at the staff meeting yesterday, is like tracking, is we have a list of like, where are the free conference rooms that we can sometimes get into, and go check all of them now.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that. And I think you should talk with Long Vu over there as well. Yeah. Any other questions for Brian and his team today, Fox Valley Literacy? I know from our end, working a lot with the refugee community, it is a challenge in so many different levels. So love and appreciate the work that you're all doing for our community, because it's kind of like that door opening up to a major barrier. So thank you for your work.
Thank you all for all yours. Thanks.
And while we are wrapping up today, there are to-go boxes. Like, my family loves Indian food, but I don't know if we can take that on because there is a lot of food. So do not be shy. Feel free to help yourself to some leftovers as well. That is awesome. And I want to make sure that we do a huge shout out to Valley Transit, Stephanie and Sarah, for all of your help in coordinating these meetings. So we always appreciate you guys for helping us pull it together. And I was just trying to find when the next there is another meeting Tuesday, November 14th, and it will be virtual. So we have Sherry Fetting from Appleton ABC. So we hope you can join us virtually on November 14th, which it seems like it's so far away, but it's really not. It's like literally a month, and this whole year is just flying by. Any comments or questions for us? Yes, Rana.
I want to put a plug in. One of my wonderful friends met with a woman from Valley Transit on how to take the bus. It was easy, it was fun, she felt respected. She knows English quite well, but she had no idea about our transit system. And so that is a free service to Valley Transit.
Yeah, that's a really good reminder. And actually, we have run up to that quite a few times with people. So that is awesome to have that in place. It's just eliminating another barrier. One other thing I was just thinking, you might have noticed that Gina ran out of here. From our team on the MCI side, we have a couple of employees, Gina and Maria, that are going to be undergoing a community health worker training. So I think it's based on a lot of the work we've already been doing. It's just kind of more formalized, structured change and learning for us. So that's next on the horizon too. Any other questions for us? Thank you all for coming today. We appreciate you as always, and we will see you in about a month. Don't forget